Decades ago, historian Clayton Cleckley wrote a piece on the Weberite Heresy. Cleckley was chairman of the Lexington County Museum Commission when the museum was first established. He was later a strong force behind the creation of the Casey Historical Museum. Quoting Clayton about the Weberites, "A very strange sect known as the Weberites arose among the German-speaking people in Saxe-Gotha and Lower Dutch Fork, South Carolina, in 1756 to 1761. This cult originated along the Saluda River in the neighborhood of Younginners Ferry. Its area of local influence extended from Little Mountain to the confluence of Broad and Saluda rivers. The sect originated with Jacob Weber, who was born in Switzerland and was raised and educated in the Reformed Church. He came to South Carolina at the age of 14 with a brother. Weber prospered early in life as a local planter, but the death of his brother caused him to question his religion and the state of his own soul. In May of 1756, inner excitement reached a climax in his soul-searching experiences. Weber shared his religious enthusiasm with his neighbors by inviting them in for Sunday hymn and singings, and readings from sermon books. He was encouraged by the response he received, and those meetings seemed to be beneficial. Gradually, the participants began to admire the reader, which in turn caused him to admire himself. The more recognition he received, the more esteem he had for his talents. During the peaceful years of 1758 and 1759, this bizarre sect caused no problem in the settlements. It became evident that the Cherokee War had made deep impressions and caused strain among the followers of Jacob Weber. Saxe-Gotha and the Dutch Fork did not escape the Indian raids. Cherokee parties penetrated their forests and emerged to scalp, murder, and burn. The grave dislocations and terror of the Cherokee War diluted these early settlements. The ravages of Indian warfare hung over the German and Swiss settlements of Saxe-Gotha and Dutch Fork by spring of 1760. The people in this locality were without schools. While this caused little concern before the Cherokee War, the lack of instruction was sorely felt as the population increased. The spiritual condition of the settlers was most deplorable, as the self-appointed ministers usually wandered into the settlements only a few times a year. The Church of England was the official church at the time, but it was not accepted by the German-speaking inhabitants of the area. After a season of depression and the ending of the Cherokee War, Jacob Weber became obsessed with the idea that he was the deity. He began to put aside the teachings of the Bible and preach out of his own spirit. Jacob Weber won over two co-workers who desired to be no less important in the meetings of the cult. They too professed most extraordinary revelations and helped to promote the sect. Meanwhile, the three leaders adjusted their differences by agreeing that Jacob Weber should represent and act like God the Father. Peter Schmidt was Jesus, and a third person, Mr. Dauber, a godless black preacher, was the Holy Spirit. These three leaders of the sect claimed to be the Holy Trinity. It was said that Peter Schmidt was a co-founder of the sect. Jacob Weber's wife, Hannah, was declared the Virgin Mary. With this organization, the sect grew stronger and stronger and practiced the most atrocious blasphemies. This religious disorder swept through the German and Swiss settlements. The sect gained so much momentum that neighbors joined it because they feared for the safety of their lives. Jacob Weber was determined that unconverted members must be healed through his efforts. Groups of both sects went about unclothed and naked and practiced outrageous atrocities. In their religious rites, they often fell into trances. They sanctioned nudity and marital confusion. The Reverend Christian Theus lived near the congeries and endeavored to serve that area in Saxe-Gotha for over 50 years beginning in 1739. Learning of the activities of the Weberites, he came unexpectedly into their midst, finding Jacob Weber contending that he was the deity and that the unconverted members must be healed through him. Because Pastor Theus opposed their blasphemy, he enraged the Weberite leaders. They threatened his life, pausing only to decide whether he should be drowned or hanged. Apparently, only the intervention of a kind-hearted Negro enabled Theos to escape. Finally, the three Weberite leaders began quarreling amongst themselves. Jacob Weber and Peter Schmidt disagreed with the third man, Mr. Dauber, who represented himself as the Holy Spirit. Weber and Schmidt agreed that Dauber was not properly exercising the office of the Spirit, and that he was neither hot or cold, but only lukewarm. They placed a mattress on the bottom of a pit, threw Dauber in, and piled more mattresses and pillows on him. Members of the sect leaped in upon Dauber and trampled him until he suffocated. The corpse was then taken out of bed and thrown into a burning pile of wood to be consumed to ashes. Soon afterward, Weber quarreled with Schmidt, the son. He declared Peter Schmidt to be Satan in disguise and ordered him chained to a tree. The band surrounded Schmidt, struck him with their fist, and beat him until he fell to the ground. Finally, they danced around him and trampled upon his throat until he was dead. These atrocious murders were committed on February 23rd and 24th in 1761. Charleston authorities learned of these murders by the Weberites, and soon the whole province was shocked by the crimes. After another murder in February of 1761, the leading members of the sect were brought to Charlestown for trial. Jacob Weber, his wife Hannah Weber, John Giger, the possible father of Emily Giger, and Jacob Burghardt were tried in Charleston and condemned to death. Jacob Weber was convicted and hung in April of 1761, but the others were pardoned by Lieutenant Governor William Bull.